It's only a short track, but it's action-packed. Here we go in St. Louis at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Contact at the back already as the leaders try to filter into turn one. Will Power's going to be on the point side by side, a few rows back, but a little contact with the wall, I think, for maybe Rinus VeeKay.
Teammates running together, McLaughlin and Newgarden, Dixon and Palou. The bright yellow car is Devlin DiFrancesco. Here's Sato in the purple and white machine on the inside of Pato O'Ward. Here's O'Ward in the orange and black machine on the inside of Dixon.
Nice move into turn one. You'll be on the brake pedal a little bit there, down from about 190 miles an hour to mid-140s in turn one.
Couple of Chevys going at it.
Oh, now O'Ward has to chase his race car all the way up the track. Fast and furious with the hands in the cockpit and almost got in the wall for O'Ward as he gives up a spot to Newgarden. Oh,
trouble. We got a car in the wall. Jack Harvey in the Hy-Vee Honda. He was arm wrestling his teammate.
It's yellow.
And this is the first portion of the race. 144 laps in.
Tried the high line to go around it and just run out of track.
Here we go.
Didn't look as clean as the last one, but Will Power tries to snake his way up the front straight to fight off Pato O'Ward. He's going to lead four wide.
McLaughlin on the inside of Dixon and Kirkwood and Palou. Great. And look at Pato O'Ward around the outside for the lead. What a move. Here we go. Marcus Ericsson defending from Joseph Newgarden. Two of the championship contenders.
And Newgarden had just got around McLaughlin as well. And now he's going to try to roll it all the way around Devlin DiFrancesco, who's a lap down, but keeping up with these top guys.
That is huge for Newgarden to get clear now. So it's just Rosenqvist in front of Newgarden. Rosenqvist is a lap down. If Newgarden can clear him, he's going to be on fresher tires with the leaders right in his sights.
You're going to be looking at your windscreen pretty soon saying, uh-oh, because Joseph Newgarden's not hanging around. He is going right by the number 12 Horizon Chevrolet, Will Power. Man, he looks like he's in a different class.
That's the pass for the lead. Newgarden to the front, and he should disappear here.
McLaughlin around the outside of Ericsson. The guys who stopped most recently are on rails.
Nice work. Wheel 4, you got it.
And Newgarden is also going to hit the pit lane here.
Red and white car is McLaughlin. He goes through turn one.
He's going to have it.
It's going to be close.
He's going to have it. I think he's going to have the momentum down into three.
Could this be it between the Bus Bros?
Look at that. It could all come down to Joseph Newgarden getting held up by Christian Lundgaard on the decel lane coming into pit lane. Oh, caution is out.
Is that for moisture?
Conditions. The rain has finally arrived.
Boy.
We got a little rain, maybe.
For this race that has just had two cautions, it now has a red. This could be a critical point of the season for one of the Championship 7. Scott McLaughlin brings his field back to green.
A nice jump from Scott McLaughlin early in the restart zone. 3 wide behind. He's going to easily lead into turn one.
Power around the outside. Look at Will Power in that black and red Verizon Chevy.
David Malukas and Takuma Sato, the Dale Coyne cars on fresh tires with a big move, but it's Newgarden to the front.
Look at him, look at him, look at him, get power.
Great run off of 2. He's got about 20 laps, newer tires. He's going to go to the high side in 3 and 4. Can he make it stick?
That's a clean racetrack with max grip. Malukas there, but Will Power's fighting him back. He's not going to give it up to him.
This is awesome, wheel to
Copy
wheel.
that.
A veteran and the rookie. And they got traffic ahead. Malukas hangs tough and executes the path. David Malukas is anything but gone. Here he comes.
+1 with a run.
Pato O'Ward left him a ton of clean air, and Malukas is taking advantage of that with a great run. Goes off into turn 3, and now Malukas can put his head down and go after his first race win.
Joseph Newgarden wins back-to-back years at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Make that 4 for Newgarden here at this track in the PPG Chevy. Awesome performance. And that's his 5th win on the season.
Great job, guys.
Actually, make it 3 in a row
Thank
here.
you.
This man's on a mission, and he's within 3 of the championship lead.
Watch the Grand Prix of Portland, Sunday, September 4th at 3 p.m. on NBC.
And with that, what a race indeed. Welcome, everyone. This is the 12th episode, if you can believe that or not, of the Push to Pass podcast. I am, as always, Derek Vance, and as I put out on social media earlier in the week, we do have a special guest joining us, as well as two other special guests that will join us here in the next hour or so. But first, let me bring in the co-host of this episode. As you see his name scrolling it down there at the bottom. Josh Roberts is joining us for one, hopefully maybe many episodes here on the Push to Pass podcast to come. Josh, first and foremost, let me say a huge thank you for joining us. I know this has been a while in the making, but we finally were able to make it happen with schedules in such. For people that don't know you or are unfamiliar with you, and heaven forbid and shame that they are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you very much for letting me come on here and help you out with the hosting details of this fine podcast that you have put together. My name is Josh Roberts. I have lived in Indianapolis for 36 years. So racing is a big thing that I grow up on. Grew up on the east side of Indianapolis. I went to the Speedrome as a child, which was our local short track over here, where we run all kinds of different stock cars, little midgets, late models, and I will admit that I have not as up on IndyCar as I have been, but I will say over the last 2 to 3 months, you have gotten me invigorated, and I'm watching a lot more of IndyCar and getting more into it. So I look forward to giving my input. It may not be the best input, but I will tell you, I am going to give you my honest opinion on all the things of what I think about this upcoming sport and what I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, my main objective for covering this in the short time that I have, and this, is to get new eyeballs on this sport, because I think the sky's the limit for IndyCar. And if we can get into it later in the show, the ratings have come out so far on Peacock, NBC, and such for IndyCar, and I think people are definitely going to be blown away if they have not seen these ratings yet. But before we do that, let's get into, as we talked about here, the race last weekend in St. Louis, outside St. Louis, Madison, Illinois. To be exact, the Bomarito Automotive Group 500 is what I'm referring to. And for people that didn't watch it, or maybe fell asleep, Josh, because of the 2 hour and I think 9 minute, I do believe, rain delay, they missed, I think, one hell of a show in that last 30 some laps or so. If Will Power is going to win the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series Points Championship, he's going to have one hell of a battle on his hands with Team Penske teammate Josef Newgarden, who drives, for people that don't know, the number 2 PPG Chevrolet. On Saturday night, he captured his 5th win of the season in a rain-delayed Bomarito Automotive Group 500 at the Worldwide Technology Raceway in Madison, Illinois, right on the outskirts of St. Louis. But that was just the start of the story. As I talked about, fans endured a 2 hour and 9 minute red flag after a rain shower passed through the race, setting up a 42 lap dash to the finish line once the track dryers did their job. And patience was obviously rewarded to the fans with a thrilling final few laps that very well almost ended in a 1-2 combination for Dale Coyne Racing rookie David Malukas in the number 18 HMD Motorsports Honda, almost claiming his first career win. Newgarden had been P2 behind Penske teammate Scott McLaughlin in the number 3 Odyssey Battery Chevrolet at the restart, but claimed the lead immediately after the green flag dropped with help from a great run off of turn number 2. At that point, Malukas was position 5 and reaping the benefits of an aggressive strategy from both Dale Coyne Racing cars that put those cars in the mix at the finish. And newer rubber on those cars around him by virtue of having made the right stop before the rain started to fall. He made short work of early race leader and current points leader Will Power, who drives the number 12 Verizon Team Penske Chevrolet, to move to position 4 and immediately began reeling in Pato O'Ward, eventually passing the Mexican for position 3 on lap 243. That left him 17 laps to do something about the 2 Penske cars ahead of him. And while he was able to close up on McLaughlin, he just wasn't quite able to make a move stick until the very last lap, when he went through the high line through turn 2 and scooted to position 2 and was right on Newgarden's gearbox as they passed the checkered flag. Malukas there after the race, we ended up getting around O'Ward and got around a lap car, and then I saw cars in the front and they were 2 Penskes. I was like, oh my god, it's 2 Penskes, he said. I might have been able to get Joseph if I'd have tried the higher line earlier, but that was a win for me, a win for the team. McLaughlin, who controlled the middle part of the race and would have taken his first oval win if the weather hadn't cleared, was the first to praise Malukas's move. Quote, "That's racing," he said. "Dave's move on the last lap, credit to him. He's a phenomenal young kid and he's going to go far. He was coming and I was a little loose, so I got a bad run off of turns 3 and 4. So I took the inside lane, he took the outside, and there was still grip there. Hell of a move. Good points for us." For Newgarden, the evening represented a 5th win of the season, beating his previous record of 4, and the prospect of going into Portland just 3 points behind Power in the championship hunt. Quote, "Scott drove me super fair at the end there, and we had a good fight," Newgarden said. "It's a big night for us at Team Penske. We just had a good restart. I knew Scott was going to be good and he had a good car. So I just tried to work the high line. Got to give him credit. He could have easily won tonight. So could have other few people. Going into the race, everyone knew the rain was coming, but opinions and in turn strategies were divided on exactly when. When the first drops of rain brought out a red flag on lap 218 of 260, it was Newgarden and McLaughlin's team who had judged it best. The pair took advantage of the first caution of the evening to pit under yellow on lap 148. However, Power stayed out. Quote, "I thought the yellow would help us, but the team didn't tell me the number we had to hit if we didn't pit," Power said. "If I'd have known that number, I would have definitely pitted." The cost of staying out was plain to see. New tires and full rich beat fuels saving every time. Power lost the lead to a thrilling move from Pato O'Ward at the restart, but the real threat was a few spots back, where Newgarden slithered through position 4 as he was playing a video game in cheat mode and building a gap that blew to 6 seconds after 10 laps. McLaughlin pulled a similar act. The pair quickly dropped to the rest of the pack. Newgarden still had a 6-second lead over McLaughlin at this point and 12 seconds back to O'Ward, but McLaughlin steadily reeled him in over the rest of that stint. That payoff when the time for the next stop rolled around and Newgarden dived into the pits to find Rahal Letterman Lanigan rookie Christian Lundgaard already there. It's impossible to know how much the Dane might have delayed him, but Newgarden's in-lap was 1 second faster, and they rejoined. He had taken a lead that held until Newgarden got him after the rain delay. So, reminder that the next up on the IndyCar series, they are off this weekend, but they go right back at it next weekend when they head to the Portland International Raceway on September 4th at 3 p.m., and you can catch that on NBC. Before we get to more into this and hear Josh's breakdown and analysis of the Bomarito Automotive Group 500, let's hear from a few drivers that we were able to catch up to after the race on Saturday.
Okay, so St. Louis getaways always bring us excitement, and here it is again, and it was a super exciting race for fans. We had a very good car today, and I think the first part of the race we were pretty good shape, and then I strongly suggested to go to the undercut, and that's obviously risky because the 160 yellow comes if you lap down, but the race was very consistent at that point, so we did it undercut, and then we succeeded, and we're leading the race and comfortably, and everything looked good. And then the yellow caution came, and we were talking about coming in or not, and unfortunately we had a radius rumble issue. I think we were talking together, and we just missed a pit entry, which was crucial because we were at that time in front of Joseph, who won this race today, and then because we had to wait another lap to come in, which we basically dropped back at 6th race or something. So that was it. And then after that, I tried the best on the night race, and then the balance wasn't there, so it was struggled with that. But nevertheless, I think 6th race is great, and then congrats on David on the first podium, and it's just a fantastic result for the DCL.
Wow, let me tell you, after the break we came back, and unfortunately we have an issue with the downshift, the gear pod, which means controls the downshift. So for the first 5-6 laps, the gears were not working at all. My dash was completely frozen, and everything will start going crazy. So imagine a restart when everybody's angry, ready to go, and you don't have the downshift. That was a very scary moment. Finally, we were able to get some rhythm, and I couldn't do anything after that. So honestly, luckily that we finished. Great job, top 15. Again, we keep chipping away. Good learning curve. Next year when we come back, we're gonna do much better. I'm telling you.
So P17 to finish off our day here. Started P20, ended P17, so we gained some positions, and overall had an okay race. We would have, of course, liked to be further up on the field, but we made a couple calls that probably didn't play in our favor, and ultimately we gained positions. So could have had the pace, especially in the middle of the race when it was light out, to do something a lot better with our car. But once it got dark, those were conditions that we never drove in before, and we were more off the pace than we had been the entire day. So that was unfortunate that we couldn't capitalize on having new tires and maybe passing some cars and getting ahead of some of the people that we needed to. But nonetheless, we finished 17th, and we'll go into Portland with a clean car and a clean mindset.
All right, we started 24th, finished P18. So happy that we were able to make some spots up during the race. That's always the goal when you don't have a good qualifying. The situation was looking really good for us before the rain came out. We wouldn't have had to pit before the end. There were probably 4 or 5 cars that we might have jumped if it had gone green to the finish. So Mother Nature doesn't always play in your favor, but we got the race back underway for the fans under the lights tonight at Gateway, which is what matters. And came on with an 18th place finish, so I'm happy that we moved up, and would have liked to have been a little further up the grid when it all said and done.
Really fast car today. Terrible night. We got a flat tire on the last restart. We had a chance, I think, to finish in the 11th, 12th position maybe. But yeah, it's just unfortunate we didn't qualify better. It's just the worst luck I've ever had in one season. Just non-stop bad luck. Honestly, I don't know what else to say. It's just been bad luck. So I'm just very frustrated for the whole team that's doing such a great job, having such a great time, and none of the potential is being shown. So I can't wait for the luck to turn, and very grateful to be with this team and doing such a great job together. Can't wait for it to show.
Josh, getting back to analysis and breakdown here a little bit. Curious to hear from your perspective, watching the race that you did on Saturday night into Sunday. Obviously, what were some of your takeaways after watching this?
Let me tell you, one of the first things I want IndyCar to do: more night races. That, even though it wasn't going to be a night race to begin with, it turned into one heck of a good, nice race. The aesthetics were great. Back to the racing. Newgarden has this track. This is Newgarden's track. This is, Babe Ruth built the old Yankee Stadium. This could be the track that Josef Newgarden built. He's got 4 wins here. 4 wins in his illustrious career. How can you go against him? I mean, sure, Malukas was on. He was on his way, and I think you were telling me the other day that you felt that if there was only 2 or 3 more laps, Malukas would have had him. But you know what? On this night, it was all Newgarden. He blew me away at his driving on the highlight we watched, where he just blew by. He was in second place, and he just blew by the guy that was in first. That's how fast he was. It didn't matter if it rained. It didn't matter if we had Forrest Gump-like winds and rain. Nothing was going to stop Newgarden from winning that race.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It looks like the weather, when it changed after the rain, it definitely changed to Newgarden's favor. He's been one of the dominant cars all year, just a few points out from P1 there in the points championship, and we'll get to that here momentarily. But I think you're absolutely right. It didn't matter what adjustments David Malukas would have made or any other car in that field. It was obviously Josef Newgarden's night. Outside of what happened at the Indianapolis 500 earlier this year, it's been Josef Newgarden and Team Penske's year for sure. They continue to roll on with just a few races to go. You have Will Power at number 1 in points, Josef Newgarden, I believe, looking at the standings, number 2 in points. So definitely going to be an interesting last 2 races.
Don't forget about Scott Dixon.
Can't forget about the GOAT. Veteran. Yep, can't forget about the GOAT. So it's going to be interesting to see how Team Penske handles this with just 2 more races to go. Taking a look at the results from Saturday night's race up on your screen. As we said, Josef Newgarden, David Malukas, Scott McLaughlin, Pato Award, Takuma Sato, Will Power, Marcus Ericsson, Scott Dixon, Alex Palou, Graham Rahal. What a run for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan there. Colton Herta, Delvin DeFrancesca, Roman Grosjean, your guy, Jimmy Johnson, comes home 14th. Elio Castroneves, who we heard from earlier, Felix Rosenquist, Kyle Kirkwood, Dalton Kellett, Christian Lundgaard, Simon Pagenaud, Callum Ilott, Ed Carpenter Racing right out of Indianapolis, Connor Daly right behind him, Jack Harvey, Alexander Rossi, and Rinus VeeKay round out your 26 drivers that were entered in Saturday night's race. Moving to the points, and you talk about a points championship standings getting tighter and tighter as we get down to the nitty gritty, as they say. Will Power holds a slim points lead by 3 points over his teammate Josef Newgarden. And then, as you said, Scott Dixon, Marcus Ericsson, Alex Palou, Scott McLaughlin, Pato Award, Felix Rosenquist, Alexander Rossi, and Colton Herta round out the top 10. Then it's Rinus VeeKay, Graham Rahal, Simon Pagenaud, Roman Grosjean, Christian Lundgaard, David Malukas, Connor Daly, Elio Castroneves, Takuma Sato, and your guy, Jimmy Johnson, round out the top 20. Then it's Callum Ilott, Jack Harvey, Delvin DeFrancesca, Kyle Kirkwood, Dalton Kellett, and Tony Kanaan, Ed Carpenter, Santino Ferrucci, Tatiana Calderon, and J.R. Hildebrand round out the top 30. So definitely going to be interesting, Josh, as we get down to, as I said, the nitty gritty. We got about 2 races left, Portland and then Laguna Seca to end the year. Do you want to give everyone who you think is going to pull this out with 2 races to go?
Looking at the standings, I think it's going to be Newgarden. I think Newgarden is.
I think he may have
He's got
frozen.
5 wins on separate him and Willpower.
There we go. You were a little frozen for a minute.
Oh, sorry about that. I think Newgarden's gonna overtake Willpower this coming race over in Portland, and then I think I'm gonna make the prediction he's gonna win Laguna Seca so that he doesn't have to share the podium with anybody else. He's gonna take it all. Joseph Newgarden.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, unless there is some type of monumental collapse in these last 2 races, Josh, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's going to be a Penske car that is going to be on top when this is all said and done. Penske, between their 3 drivers, obviously, Willpower, Joseph Newgarden, and don't forget Scott McLaughlin. They have had one hell of a year. If you think back real quick, last year, Penske only had 3 wins as a team between those 3 drivers last year. And now they've won, the majority of the races this year. So what a turnaround by them. I think your pick is could be spot on. Absolutely. But I'm going to go Newgarden as well. Just because I think he has all the momentum in these last 2 races. I know they're road course races. But I'm going to go Joseph Newgarden there as well. Just all the momentum he has. And one of the storylines, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how the captain, and not Derek Jeter, but Roger Penske handles these next 2 races, having his drivers, 1 and 2 in the standings with just 2 races to go.
Yeah, that's going to be a big toll for Mr. Penske, but I think he's rooting for anyone that's in a Penske car to win. I think when you were talking about last year and the struggles that Penske had, I think he went into his board meetings with all of his crew chiefs from all the race teams he has, and he said, "Look, guys, this was an embarrassing year. We got to do better." And I think those crew chiefs took it to heart. All the engineers, all the technology people in Penske Auto Racing, they've stepped up, and it's going to be a fantastic year for them.
Yeah, it absolutely has, obviously, and we're hoping that that our guest still remembers to on here looking at the clock. But I think something else I want to go back to while we wait. You mentioned right out of the onset when you were talking about the race on Saturday that IndyCar needs more night races, and I know we've talked offline about this, but I think and from what I'm hearing, I think the drum is becoming louder and louder. Not only for night races, because I think the livery of Indy cars under the lights, I think, is absolutely amazing. But not only more night races, but there's more ovals. There has been talk between the drivers and media and such that these drivers absolutely love driving this Indy car on ovals. We've seen it in the doubleheader at Iowa, how much fun particularly Jimmy Johnson had, especially on the second race of the doubleheader where he was a top 5, I believe. And then you see what took place there over the weekend in Worldwide Technology Raceway on that oval as well. So not only is the talk in the paddock more night races, which I think I think IndyCar could absolutely market, but more races on ovals as well, because these drivers are absolutely loving driving on ovals, and I can't imagine the other drivers that you could pull in from NASCAR, from Formula One, from Formula E, et cetera, with more ovals and especially more night racing as well.
Oh yeah, most definitely. My fondest memory of an IndyCar race has got to be when I my 21st birthday weekend went up to Michigan on the very last race that IndyCar was ever at Michigan. I don't understand why they don't go back to Michigan. It's a fantastic track. It's a fantastic atmosphere. There's campgrounds. There's all kinds of stuff around there. Why not make it happen? There's Kentucky. Kentucky's a fantastic track. From the grandstands, you can see everything. You can see the entire track. Same with Michigan. I just don't understand. I think they're wanting to model themselves more after Formula One by going with all these road courses. But I'm going to be honest. I don't find road courses to be that exciting. I don't like when NASCAR does it. I don't like when IndyCar does it. I mean, there are some exceptions. Nashville a couple weekends ago, that was an exciting one, but to me it's not as fun as seeing someone going 200 miles an hour and passing somebody that's also going maybe 190, whereas you're only going like 90 miles an hour going through a turn, and it's just not as exciting to me. I love oval racing. I am a big oval racing fan, and I want them to go back to more of them.
I think the issue IndyCar is running into, and I think there's two. One is getting sponsorship for these oval races. Kudos, and I talked about this right after the Iowa doubleheader weekend. But for people that pay attention to Hy-Vee, and if you're not in the IndyCar circle, Hy-Vee is a Midwest grocery store chain that's actually moving to Indiana, and I'm absolutely excited about that. But Hy-Vee, the way they sponsored and the way they branded the Iowa doubleheader weekend was absolutely phenomenal. Anybody that wants to promote a race, I think Hy-Vee laid the blueprint as to how to promote a IndyCar race. I think they did a tremendous job. This weekend as well, the Bomarita Automotive Group did a tremendous job as well with their branding of the race here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. So I think that's one thing. If they want to get to more ovals, there has to be more sponsors step up. And I think IndyCar is expanding its brand. I think there are more sponsors stepping in to IndyCar than what they've had in the past. Obviously, that is a market that is untapped at some aspects when it comes to IndyCar. But if you want more ovals, it has to be you got to have sponsors. Obviously, that's what makes that that's what promotes these events. That's what puts them on. But also too, you have to have people showing up. And to get to road courses for a minute. That's why NASCAR moved from the oval out at IMS to the road course, because the Brickyard 400 at the time of its inception, I think it was early 90s, 94. From 94 on, kind of lost its luster year after year, and people weren't showing up. So how's it benefit IMS to open up the 2.5 mile oval if you're only filling it half, maybe a quarter? I don't think it's worth it. So that's why they opened up the road course there for NASCAR. I want to see NASCAR go back to the oval, but in order for them to go back to the oval, the people have to show up. And Doug Bowles, Roger Penske have made that abundantly clear. To open the oval back up to NASCAR, you have to have people show up.
The problem with NASCAR and IMS, it's not built for NASCAR. It's not built for a stock car. It is built for an open-wheeled racing. The problem they had was, A, the tires were starting to get eaten up so bad on that track, and B, there was no passing. If you don't have passing, you don't have a race. If it's just follow the leader all around the track for however many laps it's going to be, no one's going to watch it. No one's going to go. Yeah, everyone showed up early because early on in its inception due to the fact that it was a novelty. It was, hey, I get to go race at a track where AJ Foyt won, Al Unser Jr., Al Unser Sr., all these fantastic legends got to go race, and it was always this folklore around the track, and it's a fantastic track, but it's not meant for NASCAR. Now back to your point about getting more sponsorship. What do you think? Who do you think it? That they are. What driver are they marketing the best? To me, I watch TV all the time. I don't ever see IndyCar unless it's on an NBC channel. They have to go out and they have to market their drivers better. If you walked up to somebody today and said, "Hey, who's currently winning the points race for NASCAR?" I bet you could find probably 10 out of 20 people that could tell you who it was. Nobody, I guarantee nobody could tell you who's leading IndyCar right now.
Yeah, that's something else I think IndyCar has to work on, and I'm sure they will, but also too, not only IndyCar as a whole has to work on that, but I think each PR team needs to work with that. Maybe that's something where they need to work hand in hand with IndyCar too. But I will say that they are getting better. You look at the deal that they have with being on NBC. They're not only are they on NBC now, but they're on Peacock as well, and then they're also on the USA Network. So they are expanding. I will give them credit with that. But they, all aspects, the PR for each team does need to get better in branding and getting their drivers out. And then also I think IndyCar needs to do that as well. And I think we're going to see that as things change and things evolve. IndyCar is definitely going to get their brand out. I mean, hell, you're on NBC now. You're on NBC and Peacock. So, you're going to get eyeballs.
Let me ask you a question though. After that rain delay, what channel did the race end up on?
I believe it stayed on, to my knowledge, unless something other different happened. I believe it stayed on. Did it stay on NBC or did they move it?
I believe they moved it to one of their affiliates. I believe they moved it to CNBC.
I thought that was Nashville. I thought that was Nashville.
Now maybe I'm getting my races mixed up, but just to show that Nashville got bumped to CNBC. One of your most high profile races got bumped to CNBC. I think NBC should stick with it no matter what it is. If that was Notre Dame football and they were in a 9-hour rain delay, they would have stuck with it.
Yeah, I was a strong proponent, and I told you that, of them moving that to CNBC. How are you expect to promote your brand when you're going to a CNBC? I was quite critical of that. But speaking of ratings, this was actually put out 2 days ago by NBC PR on Twitter at NBC, or NBC Sports PR, on Twitter at NBC Sports PR. And this is talking. I'm gonna use a term that I don't know if people are familiar with. It's called THAD, and it stands for the Total Audience Delivery. Saturday night's weather-impacted race at Worldwide Technology Raceway delivered a THAD of 586,000 viewers on USA Network. So it went to the USA Network.
Wow.
Okay. That was up 31% versus last year's Worldwide Technology Raceway race on NBC Sports Network, and ranks as NBC Sports' most watched Worldwide Technology Raceway on record. So last week's weather-impacted race, and I know you mentioned this offline, brought in viewers of 586,000 on the USA Network. That is up 31% of viewership from last year's race. So obviously IndyCar is taking a step in the right direction there. Now, the 2022 IndyCar season is the most watched through 14 races since 2008. So
wow.
Combined, they have had between ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2 1.802 million viewers. So so obviously IndyCar is taking a step in the right direction, obviously, to say the least.
Hey, you know what? I was critical of them, and now that I know that data, I got to give Roger Penske and the rest of the guys and gals over there at IndyCar, a pat on the back. They are bringing it up. I would like to see a little bit more advertising, a little bit more putting your drivers out there for more, just more anything, interviews outside of the 500 week, month. It seems like I see them all the time in the 500 week, but then they go away and I don't see anything out after that. They have to hammer. Yeah, the 500 is your crown jewel, but you also have to get out there and advertise about your, hey, tonight we're going to be in Nashville next week. I mean, if you hadn't told me they were going to be in Portland, I wouldn't have known they were in Portland.
Yeah, and our next guest, Josh, that we're going to bring in, I know someone that you're familiar with, watching the show, and this is somebody else that has been critical when it comes to getting eyeballs on IndyCar. But I think the one thing that IndyCar has done, obviously, with viewership has to do on the betting side of things. If you remember back in May, that's when Caesars announced their partnership with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we're kind of hoping going forward that brings more eyes on to the sport. But Mike from Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets is joining us. Mike, first and foremost, I know you've never met Josh, but he has followed you on this show. So welcome, Mike and Josh. But Mike, sounds like you had a pretty good weekend last weekend.
Yeah, last weekend was great, man. Probably next to the 500 in Iowa, I think it was the second or third most profitable week for me personally, and I know a lot of our followers out there made a bunch of money on some of the Graham Rahal matchups that seemingly everybody was on. So yeah, last weekend was a great week. It worked out just kind of like I wanted. We talked about on this show, we talked about my plan was to take Power and Award at higher numbers, and then look to grab some Newgarden and hope Newgarden didn't qualify well. He qualified well enough, but his number went up, so. I had exposure to Newgarden for the win, and I had Power and Award, and McLaughlin was another big bet. His top 3 number was 5-1, so that worked out well. So had him top 3, had the winner in Joseph. Would have been probably would have been the most profitable week if Power would have finished third, because had his top 3 as well early. But yeah, got a winner, got a top 3, and then where you make your most money is those matchups. That's where the sportbooks have the worst odds against you. You're at the biggest advantage as a bettor. So it was great. We had some insight on Graham Rahal from our boy Tony D at Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets, and he talked to Graham, said he had a hot car. Graham showed up in practice, had the number one car in that final practice, and then the sportsbook put out some crazy head-to-head matchups. We had Graham versus Jimmy Johnson. That was like the easiest bet of the century. So that was good, and other matchups went 4-0. So yeah, great week.
Yeah, I think this is the aspect of the show. I think Josh is the most well versed in when it comes to betting and gambling. But Mike, were you sweating it out a little bit there Saturday night before the rain came in? Because after that, that 2 hour rain delay, it just seemed like Joseph Newgarden's car was on a totally different level than everyone else.
Well, it's funny. So this is why IndyCar needs, I heard you guys just talking. This is why IndyCar needs to promote betting more, just like every other sport. Like it made that race was, for one. So I had a huge sweat going. I didn't have McLaughlin to win. I had him top 3. So I needed them to restart. So I'm sitting there like, stop, rain, stop, rain. I'm looking at the radar. I'm following IndyCar weatherman. I'm like, hey, I need this thing to flip-flop. I need Newgarden out there to win this race. I still want McLaughlin top 3, but I need them to flip-flop. So that was, so I'm praying for them to drive this track. I'm sitting there watching. I probably, luckily there was no live betting because I was sitting there just drinking beer, probably, for 2 hours. But and then once the race started back up, it was a great betting sweat because I'm sitting there, I'm watching Malukas. I'm like, all right, fine. You can bet, you can take Scott. No big deal. Scott can finish third. I got top 3. I take that bet. But I mean, 2 more laps, he catches Newgarden, and I'm probably throwing those empty beer bottles at the TV because I don't know, I didn't have anything on Malukas. I didn't see that coming. So it was a great betting sweat. It had my attention for 2 hours. And I think the gambling aspect brings a lot more eyes. I think they need to promote it more. And put more eyes around it. I'm happy to see what Caesars did with IMS, but IMS is not IndyCar. There's a little bit of a difference there. So hopefully we see more of that in the coming years, and they do what some of the other sports are doing out there.
Something else, Mike, I know you were talking about going into this weekend was the manufacturer. And I noticed there was a certain podcast per se that was putting out, wow, look at the front row. It's all Chevrolet. Seems like you hit the nail on the head there too.
Yeah, but I didn't bet that. I wanted to bet that. Maybe somebody listens to me on Twitter. I doubt it, but I feel like sometimes I'm the only guy talking about IndyCar betting forever and ever. But I was hoping to bet Chevy. I wanted something. I tell you sometimes it's not about it's about the number. Sports betting, you don't bet teams, you don't bet drivers, you bet numbers sometimes if you want to, make some money. And the number came out at -200, which is just too much for me to swallow on a bet in IndyCar. It did trickle down after qualifying. I almost bit at around the -160 mark, -170 mark, but I was hoping the sportsbook could make a mistake because usually they don't pay attention to IndyCar as much. They don't do a ton of volume with IndyCar, I'm sure. So sometimes they put out those manufacturers -110, -120 either way. And if that's the case, I was just looking to pound Chevy because I knew, by paying attention and following stuff, I knew that Chevy was going to be strong at that track.
And they obviously were up front. A majority of the night you had, both Penske cars, all 3 of them at times. And then, Pato Award, the lone Arrow McLaren Chevrolet as well. I want to bring Josh in because, like I said, this is his wheelhouse. This is where he is most knowledgeable when it comes to gambling and things of that nature. I know he's been chomping at the bit the last couple weeks that you've been on to ask you some questions. So, Josh, what do you have in the world of IndyCar betting for Mike?
Mike, I'm going to admit I have never bet on anything other than a horse race. My question to you is, do they in IndyCar betting, do they have like a trifecta where if you can predict all three who's going to finish 1, 2, 3 and you win more money than that? Do they have parlays? I'm not exactly sure how IndyCar betting works.
Yeah. So, well, unfortunately we don't get anywhere near the same sort of menu of bets that you see in F1 or NASCAR. Caesars has done some dual forecasting. So you can, so would that be a superfecta? I'm a rookie horse bettor. I have dabbled a little bit, but yeah, they do offer so you can get, sometimes there are trifectas out there. So it's almost like a parlay sort of, but yeah, you can predict 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in any order, 1, 2 in any order. So Caesars has been offering some of that stuff up. I will tell you the numbers that they offer with it are not great. They're not nowhere near the true odds. I'll tell most people that ask me parlays sometimes are for fun. I would never recommend parlaying more than 2 things together. And for the most part, parlays are where the sports books, build big hotels and make a ton of profit. So I stay away from those. Maybe a matchup here and there, something like that in IndyCar, but you're pretty much focused on your one winner, your top 3, your top 5, and then the way you can the way you really can make your most money is in head-to-head bets, just driver versus driver.
What are some of the odds? What are the odds? What are they like? I mean, do you get big odds like 500 or something like that? Can you get up into that, like the long shots?
Yeah, so it depends on the track, depends on the race. IndyCar, you can get long odds. I hit a 40-1 last year with Colton Herta. That was probably one of the bigger IndyCar bets I can think of, and that was something I was just pounding Herta all year long. The books kept him at 40. I've had multiple Jack Harvey bets at 80 and 100-1 when he was qualifying out of his mind last year. Never cashed any of those, but they did set me up to make money in other bets. So you do get your occasional 20, 28-1, 25-1, double-digit winners in IndyCar. A lot of it's about qualifying, and then after qualifying, you see the numbers dip. So you get pre-qualifying odds, and the idea behind those is we're trying to find guys at big numbers that are going to qualify high and have their numbers drop. So last week, Power opened up at 8-1. I bet that before qualifying. He qualified on the pole. His number dropped all the way down to about 2-1. So I'm sitting there with an 8-1 ticket, which allowed me to go ahead and grab Joseph. So I had more options out there. But yeah, you can hit some long shots. It does happen. Not frequently. The sports books are pretty stingy on some of the better drivers and the drivers you see winning. But IndyCar's got a lot of parity, so they can't price everybody that low.
Okay. Just trying to get a grasp of it. I'm probably gonna make my first real bet on IndyCar this coming race at Portland. Just trying to get a grasp of what exactly I'll be looking at. I mean, when I first started sports betting, it was mainly just basketball and football. And when you just first start looking at it, you're like, okay, there's a money line, there's this, there's that. And I don't want to go into my first one and bet on someone that I shouldn't bet on or something like that. So I appreciate your help and what your and your knowledge.
Yeah, I would look for it depends on how much you're willing to spend and if you're going to make more than one bet. I mean, if you're only going to make one bet, I would tell you to pick a head-to-head matchup. If your book offers one, and pick a driver you like and pick a driver you think could beat the other guy. You can this weekend you'll probably Portland was dominated by Palou, Dixon, maybe get a Dixon versus a Penske car matchup. And I'll tell you, like, you won't see those until the day of the race, maybe a couple hours leading up to the race. The sports books just don't post those ahead of time. Very rarely will you see that. They'll wait for the qualifying. You can make a pre-qualifying bet if there's a driver you like at a big number. And kind of I'd make a smaller bet there and see how it works out. Because if he qualifies at the back, for Portland specifically, it's not a track where we have a ton of history, but we know not really a few mileage race where guys can kind of use strategy to get up front. I mean, the guys that started 1, 2, 3 last year finished 1, 2, 3 last year.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I know we're obviously off this weekend, but we get right back at it next weekend, like I said, at Portland, and then finishing up at Laguna Seca. We'll talk next week about obviously previewing Portland, but what are some of the things people need to look for as they do their homework this week, getting prepared to put their bets down, or if they play on the fantasy side of things as well? What are some of the things people need to look forward to this week?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can go on IndyCar.com. You can pull the results from last year's race. You can look at the qualifying, you can look at the practice results, and you can look at the race results, and you can see how they finished. Not a ton of history in the new car, the current car at Portland, so I wouldn't go back any further than that. Probably not worthwhile. Then also, remember, people have changed. I know Harvey did really well last year at Portland, but he's in a different team, different car, so you gotta remember that. And I think it's going to be important this year to pay attention to what Penske's up to, right? So Penske is testing there this week. I want to hear what they say. They got the two guys that are now the favorites for the championship battle. Joseph's your favorite, just under 2-1 to win the title at this point. Probably the value there is gone. I would tell you just to bet him, top 3 or winner, because he's going to need that to continue to win the title. You get better odds, but look and see, pay attention to the news, pay attention to what Penske says out of the testing. And this is probably a race where I'm going to wait till after quals, or at least take a look at practice before I maybe make any bets, unless I see some kind of 10-1 or plus number on one of these drivers. One of these drivers I think can win the race from back there, maybe one of the Ganassi guys. So look at last year's race, pay attention to the Twitter feeds and kind of what's in the IndyCar bubble that the sports books aren't reading in those details, and maybe you can find a little bit of an edge. We'll see what we can find when they release the numbers.
Yeah, they'll do that about a week or so from now, and I know Mike and everyone over at Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets will definitely be on the lookout for those and give us a breakdown and what to look forward to next weekend in Portland. But Mike, as always, it's been an amazing season. We got 2 races left to decide who's going to be the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series champion. Can't wait to see how that plays out. As we talked about earlier before you got on, it's going to be interesting to see the strategy Penske goes with, the captain, because having 1 and 2, going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But Mike, again, as always, huge thank you for joining us. We look forward to what you have for us next week at Portland.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. We'll see if we can make some money for everybody next week. Keep it going.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, man. No problem. Good luck on that bet.
Thank you.
We'll find you a good one. Keep an eye on the Twitter feed. Keep an eye on the at Burnout Bets. We tag everything through there, and we'll find you a good bet, either pre-qualifying or post-qualifying, and we'll make you some money. I know we've made Derek a little bit here and there, so we'll pay for some Peacock subscriptions and and cover the gambling budget.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, as Mike said, check out him on Twitter. As you see his Twitter account there down at the bottom, and then also go check out Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets as well, and then also to Mike and Tony and the gang over there at Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets. They'll do a Twitter Spaces either on Friday night or Saturday night to get everyone on the same page as the race rolls around on Sunday. All right, we're in the last lap of this episode here. I want to say a huge thank you to Josh for joining us. He may be a mainstay on here. We'll just have to work out some things in his contract, as we've learned this year. What's a contract? But I know. But we'll see. He may be a mainstay. We'll see how things work out. Also, huge thank you to Mike as always. And our guest was supposed to be Matt Branham. Over there at Andretti Autosports, Indy Lights, tearing it up. I'll have to see what happened there. Hopefully we can get him back here for the next 2 weeks. Have to send some emails out, and we'll have to see what happened.
Don't send
maybe
too many
Matt,
emails out.
Yeah, don't do that. But maybe Matt may have had a scheduling snafu or whatnot, but definitely try to reschedule him. So before we finish this up, let's take a look at news and notes from this week in IndyCar, as our cool little graphic there comes up on your screen. First, actually, this happened Friday, right before the race. This past weekend, for people that did not know, and I think there's going to be a lot of happy Elio fans around the country, Josh, but it was announced by Meyer Shank that Elio Castroneves will be returning to Meyer Shank Racing in 2023. As I mentioned, Meyer Shank Racing on Friday, this past Friday, announced that Elio Castroneves, the four-time Indianapolis 500 winner, will return to the team's IndyCar program for the 2023 season, again driving the number 6 AutoNation Sirius XM Honda. Castroneves and Simon Pagenaud, who drives the number 60 AutoNation Sirius XM Honda, will make up Meyer Shank Racing's IndyCar stable for the 2023 NTT IndyCar Series season. Castroneves first joined Meyer Shank Racing for a 6-race campaign in the 2021 IndyCar season. The first race of the season for Meyer Shank and Castroneves as a team, believe it or not, was the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500, where obviously Elio exceeded all expectations as he raced for a record-tying 4th Indianapolis 500 victory, exactly 12 years after his previous 500 win in 2019. The win also for the first ever IndyCar Series victory, or the win rather, was the first ever IndyCar Series victory for Meyer Shank Racing, which is based in Josh's favorite state in Ohio, having making its season or series debut in 2017. The 2021 Indianapolis 500 was Meyer Shank Racing's 38th NTT IndyCar Series entry after the team ran a 6-race program in 2018 and 10 races in 2020. The team went on to complete full-time in 2020 and expanded in 2021 to 1 full-time entry in the partial season campaign with Castroneves. To date, Castroneves has 31 victories, 50 IndyCar pole positions to his resume, putting him in IndyCar's top 10 in history for most victories and pole positions. The 2023 IndyCar season will see Castroneves once again attempt to be the first driver in IndyCar history to claim a 5th Indianapolis 500 victory. A quote here from team owner Mike Shank: keeping Elio on board wasn't really a question for us. We've built a really strong relationship with him over these past 2 race seasons. He brings so much to the table on and off the track. He's been able to help us grow as a team, and we've been able to learn from his years of experience. It's truly a mutual beneficial relationship. And of course, he's a perfect face of the sport and has such an infectious personality. So to have him on our team is an honor. And then a quote from Elio as well: I'm so excited that myself and Meyer Shank Racing have renewed for the 2023 season. I'm super optimistic for an amazing season because of everything that we have built this season, all the positive data and positive energy. I can't thank Mike and Jim enough, and of course, all of our partners. There is no question that we are all super excited to continue this amazing partnership. Simon Pagenaud and I are going to do everything we can to finish this season strong and then have a good start to 2023 and some even better results. So Castroneves will be around with Meyer Shank Racing in 2023. And the last bit of news coming out here this week as well: Andretti Autosports and Andretti Global announces plans to build racing and technology headquarters in Indiana. Andretti Global, the parent company of Andretti Autosport, has announced today that the team has chosen Fishers, Indiana, to be the future home of its Universal Motorsports headquarters. The team intends to build a 575 square foot facility, or the size of Josh's house, that will occupy approximately 90 acres alongside the up-and-coming Nickel Plate Trail, Ritchie Woods Nature Preserve, and near the Indianapolis Metropolitan Airport. The new global headquarters will add up to 500 jobs to the local community by early 2026. So that is our news and notes for the week. Josh, anything you want to add to Elio Castroneves being on board for 2023, or the announcement this past week that Andretti Autosport is going to be bringing a huge 575-foot square facility to Fishers, Indiana?
Well, that's not the size of my house. It's close to it, but not the size of it. On Helio's news, I'm glad to see that he's still out there going. I'm hoping he gets his 5th win this next May. But I mean, it's awesome to see, with all the up and coming young drivers that he could still go, especially at his age. I mean, I can hardly see sometimes as I'm driving, and that's just driving at a normal speed. Sometimes and for him to have such reflexes and eyesight to be able to still go out there and compete at 200 miles an hour, that's amazing. I mean, he keeps himself in such good shape, and he's a great person for the community. Every time I ever talk about Helio Castroneves to anyone, there's always someone that comes up and talks about they met him somewhere, they did something, he did something for a charity. he is the embodiment of what a good human being is. On the Andretti Autosports building something new, that is awesome. I'm going to apply for a job. I don't know if they'll take me. I'll get away from my current job, but we'll see. What's the worst they can tell me? No.
You know what? I've heard that somewhere before. But yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on when it comes to Elio. Obviously, having the opportunity to interview him in Nashville and be around him, I think you're absolutely spot on. Obviously, he's a great ambassador, not only for IndyCar but for the sport in general. And it's going to be awesome to see that pink and black 06 car out on the track in 2023. You look at what he did last year with Meyershank Racing. First time out there for that race team and got him a 500 victory, got his fourth 500 victory. So yes, it's going to be awesome to see Elio and Simon back out there for Meyershank Racing, what they've built this year, taking all that momentum and what they've built into next year, obviously, for sure. And then on the Andretti side of things, before we wrap this up, awesome to see, racing, especially the Andretti name, staying here in central Indianapolis area. They're going to put up that big facility there, opening up a lot of jobs. And obviously, that does wonders for a community. Not saying Fishers doesn't do wonders on their own, but yes, definitely going to help the community out, and having that Andretti name that is synonymous with Indianapolis is definitely going to be, I think, a great match indeed. Josh, before we wrap things up, any last words that you want to give before we get on out of here?
I just want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this great endeavor that you're on. I've been kind of back and forth on if I wanted to get on and start doing a podcast. I know I said I wanted to back a couple years ago, but I've just always been hesitant just because I didn't think how good I was going to be. And you know what? This has given me a lot of confidence, and I look forward to being on this podcast a lot more coming into the future. And maybe there'll be another podcast of a different topic that we can try.
Yeah, definitely be on the lookout. We may be trying some different things and such, but yeah, definitely enjoyed having you. We'll try to get that guest next time. I know we're both excited when we can get drivers on IndyCar, Indy Lights, whatnot. But we'll definitely have to get that scheduling worked out and see how things go. But again, huge thank you, as I said in the opening, to Josh for joining us. May see him a whole lot more, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Also, huge thank you to Mike, obviously, from Burnout Sports and Burnout Bets. Go check him out on Twitter, especially next week when the NTT IndyCar Series picks back up for the Grand Prix of Portland. So for myself and Josh and everyone else here at the Push to Pass podcast, we will see you at the next race.